Many of the predicted effects of the climate crisis won't actually be seen for decades to come. That means it's not today's leaders and policymakers that will suffer. The burden will fall directly on the shoulders of today's youth, who will have to deal with a world made more hostile by centuries of industrialisation. As Paolo Montecillo reports, youth groups are putting pressure on their elders to secure a better future.
Donuts are the perfect reward for these Tasmanian teenagers. They worked up an appetite on pedal-powered generators for their school's deep fryer. The sugary treats are part of a project by the Zayed Energy Hub, established in the town of Huonville.
I realized how important saving energy is and how important the world is.
Being part of Zayed has definitely helped me feel like I'm doing something, I'm making a change.
The role of the youth in tackling global heating was in focus on Friday at the COP26 climate conference in Glasgow. Tens of thousands of young people took to the city's streets to demand action from leaders, including prominent activist Greta Thunberg. And the group Youth for Climate has asked policymakers to give the next generation a seat at the table. They're calling on governments to ensure meaningful engagement with youth groups in the decision-making process for climate-related initiatives. They also want nations to commit to the rapid transition to renewable energy so that the jobs of the future will be in sustainable industries. And to ensure gains aren't reversed, the group says governments need to make sure climate issues are taught in schools.
I want leaders to give solutions and implementations, not the empty promises, not the blah blah, non pledges. I'm tired of the pledges, the empty promises.
We are tired of hoping, we are tired of being called inspiration, and we are tired of being told to keep up the hope. We don't need hope, we need action.
The UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change says many of the effects of global heating are already irreversible. These include larger and more frequent storms and wildfires, and rising sea levels affecting coastal communities. Young people around the globe, like these Tasmanian high schoolers, are working hard to make sure conditions in the world they'll inherit don't get too much worse. Paolo Montecillo, TRT World.
Well, for more, let's go to Rukia Khamis in Nairobi. She's a climate and social justice activist and the regional organiser for 350africa.com, a group dedicated to pushing for action on the climate crisis. Welcome to the program, Rukia. Thank you so much for joining us. Firstly, can I ask you to tell us a bit about yourself? What made you want to become an active campaigner for action on global heating and the climate crisis?
Thank you so much for having me. So what inspired me initially, it actually started as when I was a child. Where I come from Mombasa, which is a coastal city in Kenya, and we have issues on water access, and lack of available fresh water. So I started campaigning around issues of water. And then I was introduced to a volunteer group, 350, in Nairobi when I was doing my studies. And I started joining that group and speaking around issues of, climate justice. And the issue became closer to home when the government wanted to put up a coal-fired power plant in Lamu. And since then, I've never looked back. I've been, campaigning and organizing around stopping fossil fuel infrastructure in the region. Yeah.
We know young people have played a prominent role at this year's COP26 Climate Summit. We've seen them featured during the opening sessions in front of the world's leaders that were broadcast around the world. We're also seeing their rallies being broadcast around the world also. But ultimately, it is adults who are making the decisions at the end of this conference. Do you think activists like yourself, young people, are finally being taken seriously by those adults at COP26?
Unfortunately, I feel like we're being taken seriously when what we've been campaigning for years is now coming to fruition. I feel like the adults are actually starting to see the threats on the ground. Like they're starting to see that the youth weren't just making noise for nothing. The youth were actually, giving, sort of what is our prediction to what is coming. Like you mentioned, the issues or the impacts are going to be seen in decades to come. But unfortunately, we are the ones who are going to still be around some of these guys won't be here to experience these impacts with us. So are they taking us seriously? It's a yes and no answer, but that doesn't mean we're going to stop, campaigning and organizing and using our voices to make that a stand.
Even within the community of youth climate activists around the world, there are criticisms that activists like yourself and others from lesser developed countries are being overshadowed by those from richer Western nations. Why is it important that people from Africa and other countries around the world are being heard over perhaps people like Greta Thunberg, who seem to be getting most of the attention?
Yeah, so as you know, the continent, Africa and other continents in the global south are the least contributors, to the climate crisis and the emissions, the greenhouse gas emissions to the world. And unfortunately, when worse comes to worse, when climate change comes to really take us over, and we're already seeing impacts of climate change already, the vulnerable communities are located in the continents, in Africa, in the Pacific, in Latin America. And unfortunately, those spaces are still not there. And lately, at least, I'm grateful and I'm proud to see more faces in the global south being presented at the front lines and given more platform. And I think the digital era is kind of, I can give credit to that, because now you don't need a platform. You can create your own platform to use your voice and, create change. Yeah.
That's right. Well, Rukia Khamis, we will have to leave it there, but best of luck with your work, and hopefully we can chat with you again in the future.